Hey, what's up? MKBHD here. So, you know those fish that suction themselves to sharks, and you always see them along the side of sharks? Like they follow the shark everywhere they go, swimming alongside it, usually attached to it. It's called the remora fish, and they are fascinating creatures. They have this relationship that's kind of amazing for the remora. It gets to snack on the scraps of whatever the shark is eating, and it has a 24/7 bodyguard basically. And the shark allows it to do that because it'll also eat parasites off the shark's back. Keeps it clean. It's a win-win. They have a symbiotic relationship, meaning they both benefit. But really, the remora fish definitely needs the shark way more than the other way around. So you never really see them out in the wild without some sort of host or something to attach to. Now, in the tech world, Apple is that shark, and there are a whole bunch of companies, you've probably heard of them, whose primary business function happens to be an accessory that attaches to something Apple does. And that is a dangerous place to live. So this whole dynamic it's so fascinating to watch because there's so many examples of it. Now, of course, AirTags is, the one recent announcement that's got me thinking a lot about this lately. But really, anytime Apple enters a new product category, it gets a lot of attention because it's interesting. Like, how will Apple do it the Apple way? Will they separate themselves from the competition or do anything technically different? And AirTags, they have some legitimately unique features. The little precision find feature makes for a cool demo. But Bluetooth trackers are not new, not even close. Tile has been making these things since 2013, and they do fundamentally the same thing. They help you find whatever they're attached to by pinging other phones around that have the Tile app, which creates a community mesh network and help you find your thing. Plus, there's a couple other features and a variety of shapes and sizes, and Tile is also built in to some other items. But for the core function of finding your thing, AirTags have a massive advantage, which is their network isn't just people using the Tile app, it's all of the stuff on Apple's Find My network. So it's iPhones, it's iPads, it's Macs, and they'll all passively update the position of something near it anytime it's around a device on that network. It's frictionless, it happens silently and effortlessly in the background, you don't even know it's happening, and the network is massive. It's approaching 1 billion devices. So there are some best case estimates that put Tile's presence in some of the most densely populated cities in the world, like Manhattan and San Francisco, at 1 Tile user per block, meaning you can't go more than a block without encountering a Tile that will update the location on the network, which is pretty impressive. But when you think about those same blocks in those same cities, you're gonna get, a dozen plus iPhones and Macs and iPads? And that's not even considering all of the other less populated areas. So immediately, Apple's ability to plug a feature into the iPhone gave them a huge advantage over the competition. That is the theme. So I already made a video called The Apple Ecosystem Explained. I'll link it below the like button if you haven't seen it already, but I talk about why people keep choosing the iPhone just because of the walls around the ecosystem. But here's another thought. Because of Apple's ability to plug things into the ecosystem, especially with the iPhone, Apple can kill entire companies. But they don't do it menacingly. They do it so nicely by presenting it as a choice on a silver platter. Less than a month ago, Apple actually opened up the Find My network to allow third-party accessories to take advantage of this incredible network, right? So out of the gate, there were e-bikes and earbuds and conveniently another cheap plastic Bluetooth tracker that you can find based on nearby devices in this network. Amazing. So now for Tile, there's technically a choice. You can make a Tile that's compatible with Apple's Find My network or not. It's a choice, pretty simple. But it's actually a bit of a paradox of choice because either way you choose, Apple still wins. So let's say they choose to make a compatible Tile that works in the Find My iOS ecosystem. That seems great, right? It works great for the users. They take advantage of that better network. But now that means a portion of new Tile customers who were going to buy a regular Tile that plugs into and improves the Tile network will actually be plugging into and improving Apple's network instead. They'll plug into Find My and they won't use the Tile app for locating their device, which means now Tile is selling a product that actively hurts their own business and makes their own network less desirable over time. So the other choice is to not participate in the Find My network and not offer a Tile that works with it, which just means You're missing out on those sales, and their less appealing network slowly dies over time as people just buy the ones with the more deeply compatible iPhone. But hey, technically, it's a choice, right? Look how friendly this guy is. He would never force you to do anything you didn't want to. You can choose to work with the iPhone or not. It's up to you. You could also choose to swim off into the rest of the ocean, or you could stay swimming with me, the shark. Makes sense, right? I'd actually argue this paradox of choice happens twice with AirTags. So once with Tile, as we just saw, but also again for the customer. So if you're an iPhone user, now technically you have a choice between the two different options, which one is going to require a separate app and has a much smaller network, and the other just kind of plugs right in and seamlessly works in the background and not much thought to it, and they're around the same price. See what I'm getting at? Now Apple will always repeat day in and day out, there is competition. We have competition, and you can always choose our competition over the product we make. But Apple's smart. So obviously they know they have deep market penetration with the iPhone. And so when they want to leverage that to jump into a new product category, they'll do it every time. They've done it before. Apple Watch is maybe the most popular watch on earth. I think they've said this before. And AirPods are honestly some of the most popular wireless earbuds ever made. That's because of the iPhone. But it's even more fascinating when they literally kill whole companies. Like when the shark decides to close its mouth and eat the fish that was cleaning its teeth. Apple's done this so many times. I've got 4 more examples for you. Each one of them a little bit more brutal than the last. So I'm gonna rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a light scratch, 10 being absolutely finished, on how bad Apple left them after they jumped into the new product category. And if you'll notice, they're all on the back of this paradox of choice. So Flux, or F.Lux, you might have heard of them. They are an app that lets you change the color temperature of your screen, right? So it'll adjust to have more or less blue light output, and it can automatically make your screen warmer and dimmer the later it gets in the day. Flux used to be in Apple's app stores, but then in 2015, they were kicked out. And Apple's reasoning was developers can't take advantage of the use of certain private APIs. So it seems reasonable. We all know Apple's been very specific about the way, Macs and iPhones and iPads should look and feel. But what feels weird about that one specifically is later that year, Apple came out with an update where they built in that exact functionality into the OS themselves. It's on the Mac behind me. It's called Night Shift. So with Night Shift, your iPhone or iPad or Mac can get warmer or cooler based on the time of day or where you're at, and it can set a schedule for when you want that to happen. Super useful, of course, and convenient now that it's baked in. So now you're a Mac user. You've got a choice. You can go to the Flux website and download it since it's not in the App Store anymore, and then approve it through security and then set it up and get the schedule going. Or you can just use the one built into system preferences. But you have the choice. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10, only because Apple could only kill half the company when it's also available on Windows and on Android if you root. But also, Android's added some of this functionality. Windows 10 has added some of this functionality, so all of them combined would make it about a 10 out of 10, but Apple could only kill half. All right, so then there are iPad styluses. And this isn't one company so much as it's like a whole product category that sort of got pummeled when Apple decided to enter. So there's a big variety in this space. There's the markers and pens and pencils and styluses that can all write on the iPad surface. And so you can get anything from ultra cheap to ultra premium depending on what you want it to do. And then Apple just drops in at the high end with the Apple Pencil. Now the Apple Pencil, as we all know, works with and plugs into the iPad Pro better than any other stylus. I would say literally because of the first gen Apple Pencil, but no other iPad Pro stylus slaps onto the side of the iPad magnetically and pairs instantly and charges while sitting there. It works with all of iPadOS's built-in tools and minimizes latency with that high refresh rate display. It is the best possible implementation of an iPad Pro input device. Plus, I can imagine future versions of the Apple Pencil having a U1 chip, right? It would make a lot of sense. You can add it to the Find My network. You can direct your iPhone to find it when you lose it. We all know we've lost that pencil before. There's just no way to justify buying a different stylus for $100 for the iPad. I mean, you can. You have that choice. So I'm gonna give this one like a six or seven, just because you can still buy the cheaper ones if you just want a very simple input device, normal stylus. But the second you go $100 plus, that whole category, it's really hard to compete with the Apple Pencil. So okay, then there's Duet Display. So you might not have heard of this one, but you probably have heard of Sidecar, the feature, right? That lets you use your iPad as a second display for your Mac. What you might not know is Duet Display is an app and a company that's been built to do exactly this for a long time, much before Sidecar existed. And just like Flux, it still exists. It's still got Windows and Android and even Chrome OS versions, and it actually does still work for iPad. But you can imagine most people who are just searching for something on Google, like how to use an iPad as a second display. Sidecar is going to come up the majority of the time, and it's going to be the easiest way to do it, plug in straight into iPad OS the majority of the time. So Duet Display does have a couple extra features on top of Sidecar, like you can use the touchscreen while you're mirroring, but still, like Flux and like Tile, most people are just going to be satisfied with the first party built-in version. So I'm going to give this a 7 because there's still the Windows users with iPads who are still going to make that happen. So last but not least, there is Watson. And this one probably hurts the most. So this was a search tool in the Mac that let you search the web and search all kinds of other things without actually having to open up your browser. And their tagline was actually an innovative utility that bypasses the web browser. But as you probably already know, Apple came out with Sherlock 3, which was then called Spotlight, which is in everything they make now. I use it all the time, and it does exactly the same thing. You can search the web, search your Mac, search whatever. Also, the Mac does it, the iPhone does it, the iPad does it, Android phones do it. Like, you can still technically choose to download this original, but look at their website. Like, you can imagine there hasn't been a good reason for people to download Watson in a long time if this is what their website still looks like. That I'm gonna say is a 10 out of 10, RIP, completely gone, right alongside like the Flashlight app. You remember those? When you used to be able to download a Flashlight app on the iPhone, then Apple literally built it into the lock screen on iOS, and now there's no reason to download a Flashlight app. I mean, you can choose to, technically, but you're not going to. So all this is a dynamic I encourage you to pay attention to, the Shark and the Remora of the tech world, right? And there's a lot of this talk going on in the public sphere already with the whole antitrust and the walled garden talks. Funny enough, the day after AirTags were announced, Tile testified in front of Congress to explain how Apple was leveraging an unfair advantage to enter that market. But of course, Apple would argue, no, we didn't. We let people choose. We gave people a choice. Everyone had a choice. You could plug into the Find My network if you wanted to, or not. That's up to you. You can do it the Apple way or not. And whichever product people decide to buy, so be it. So I don't think there's any correct answer. There's no easy right answer, but what do you think? Should Apple not be allowed to plug into their own ecosystem and leverage that to make new great products? Or does Apple have too much power in that way? But I encourage you to pay attention to when Apple inevitably enters even more new product categories, like when they make an AR headset or a camera or whatever other new product they do end up making. Watch how much they plug in to that ecosystem in ways that their competition literally can't, and watch how those fish respond to the shark. But either way, it's crazy to think about how far Apple has come from being a small company out of a garage to literally one of the biggest companies ever to exist, mostly on the backs of the iPhone. Oh, speaking of which, my friend Rene Ritchie he's made a Nebula original on the introduction of that original iPhone with a bunch of industry folks, including myself, talking about, the fact that made such huge ripples in the first keynote and what that original iPhone meant. So you can watch that whole thing on Nebula, a video streaming service built by independent creators, including myself, and that is bundled with this video's sponsor, CuriosityStream. So Nebula is already pretty dope. There's a lot of the smartest creators I know on there: Minute Physics, TechAlter, Rene Ritchie, as I mentioned, all using Nebula to share their best stuff, and sometimes even trying new stuff that doesn't quite work on YouTube. So I've been putting my videos on Nebula ad-free, so you're welcome for the info on how to watch the videos without sponsors as a sponsor. It's getting pretty meta. But besides that, CuriosityStream is a subscription service sort of built to like my exact tastes. It's a home to all kinds of thousands of documentaries and shows about technology and futurism and culture and inventions and the social web, all that kind of stuff. Just look at this category drop down on the site. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I feel like I'm perfectly in the target demographic, and if you watch my videos or enjoy them, you probably would like these too. There's one called Shark Family Tree, which looks at how incredible great white sharks are. They're all in 4K. There's also plenty more where I can learn way too much about sharks, so I encourage you to check them out. So since the two together are kind of a no-brainer, you can use my code or the link below to get both Nebula and CuriosityStream bundled together. I have a feeling I'm going to be recommending a lot more of this stuff in the future. Either way, that's been it. Again, let me know what you think of the Apple paradox of choice, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.